Good morning from beautiful Brisbane, Australia. How are you this morning? And in America, it's Memorial Day. So enjoy your beautiful day of barbecues and family and connecting. This morning, sorry, Panda's running around here and I'm worried she was going to knock something over. This morning, I want to share with you some information about our authentic self and how we can identify when we're not able to bring our authentic self into our day-to-day life, and how we are also able to identify how we want to bring our authentic self into our day-to-day life. So I made up an infographic, which you may or may not have seen before, and I'll just grab it here. Now, there we go, that's better. Now, the impact of complex trauma on who I am, all right? So our core self, our authentic self is here, and then with each episode of trauma, okay, so unnatural things happening in our childhood life or even in our adult life, we move further and further away from our authentic self in order that we can hold on and get through the life that we have to get through. And as a child, that means that we need to be able to, we do things like hold our breath and we dissociate and we do all sorts of things to get through those challenging times. And now that we're adults, we know that who I am is hidden behind a mask. So we need to look at areas in our day-to-day life where we feel that we're shut down. We feel that everyone's looking at us and blaming us. We feel that we hold no value in the conversation that's happening around us. Like we can be sitting there and thinking, well, nobody really wants to know who I am or my part of the conversation. And the shame. I struggle to put words around the shame, but the shame is the feeling of I can be sitting here and feeling like I don't belong, right? And all three of those things make us feel that we're powerless. We're powerless to take charge and take hold of our lives and begin to manage where we want to go, all right? So as we feel powerless to control the circumstances or events around us as well, we find that we begin to shut down as an adult with our communication. I remember when I was an accounts clerk many years ago, and I used to sit at my desk at work, and I'm doubly challenged socially because not the CPtsd, it makes it hard for us to socialise, and that comes into a whole variety of things from a neurobiological perspective as well. But also being on the spectrum, it's hard for me to understand all the underlying social innuendos that happen that people just take for granted that people should know. And so I used to just sit at my desk and eat my lunch, and people just seemed to, well, they did. They grabbed their chair, sit around my desk, a whole crowd of them, and I'm like, but I hardly say a word. Why are they sitting here? And I had no idea at the time at all. And sometimes people just need somebody who'll listen, and that's okay too. But it can be very frightening for us to want to come out from behind our mask and engage socially. But I want to promise you that it's something that we can learn to do. And we can learn that those closest to us are the people that care enough to know and understand what's happening for us at any given point in time. But today, focusing on who I am, if you're hitting brick walls in your relationships, then I want you to take some time out and sit down and do some journaling. So remember I should have grabbed this one. Kmart, nice and sparkly. Oh, Kmart, nice and sparkly, $4, $4, okay? Grab one. And when you're going through these hard, challenging times, morning, girls. Oh, Diana's in bed. Awesome. Hi, Laurel. So when we're going through these challenging times and it's hard to communicate what we really, really want to say, okay? So part of complex PTSD is that we feel shut down verbally. So unlike me sitting here today being able to talk, I actually went through a period in my life when I couldn't talk, all right? So it's part of our cognitive function as well. So when our voice gets shut down or we feel that we're continually shut down, we need to take some time out for us and ask ourselves some really authentic questions, okay? So be real with yourself about what I needed to say. Now, if the first line of thought that comes out of your mind and off your page is cranky and real and raw, that's okay, all right? You know, sometimes we get to the point of, why don't people understand? Why can't people just see what I'm saying? And I know decades ago that used to be the most frustrating part for me, is that I felt like people couldn't understand what I was trying to get, the point I was trying to get across. Now I understand that sometimes my perception of how things are is not how things are. But I didn't know it back then, and there's lots of us who didn't understand that back then, that we can be triggered and not know it. Okay, so our perception can be offline and we cannot be understanding what's happening. One of the most valuable things I've ever done is teach my kids that when we're not communicating on the same wavelength, let's sit down and what's happening for me, what's happening for them, and go from there. So what we're aiming to do to get back to our authentic self is to realise what it is we need to voice. And one of the things that we need to do well, try and do well, begin on the journey to doing well, is understanding what we're feeling beneath what we had to feel. All right, so during the trauma we had to feel a certain way, and then that continues on with the fear response from our brain. But now as adults we want to sit down and we're going to go, okay, that's how I used to have to feel because of the trauma, all right, but now today I want to dig a bit deeper and I want to be able to look ahead and see how I want to feel about these things in my life. Ask the question, how do I want to progress through this in order that I get to a place where I can express how I feel authentically? Now, this can happen as parents, it can happen as friends, and misunderstandings happen, and we just keep chipping away so that our authentic self can come to the front, all right? We're going to make mistakes. We've got to give ourselves permission to make mistakes, and being able to apologise from our heart. Okay, I taught my kids that when they were little. No, the apology's got to come from your heart. Not I'm sorry. No, you've got to stand there and feel it from your heart. And it stood them in great stead, because when they were all living together and there was, chaos, as there is when people live together, they were able to sit down and manage their communication with each other without me even being there, which is what we want. We want to be able to have communication through the toughest of times. But for us, we want to be able to learn how and teach ourselves how we can get our authentic voice out. And at first, we may only feel safe to say a little bit of what we need. So for argument's sake, if I said to my daughter, I need you to get a license, I need you to get a car, I need you to do this, this and this, it's too much. So we start with one thing with ourselves. What do I need first? I need to be able to say that this is the basics of what I need to happen today, because when I act in that manner, then it's going to produce a bigger picture where I feel comfortable to say more and to have more input into the environment around me as well. We build, all right? We don't take away, we build and we reclaim our authentic self. Laurel says she loves her mask though. Not to mention, her moat and her drawbridge and metaphorical alligators that live in my moat. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, that's right. Understanding our feelings and subconscious triggering skews perceptions. It really does. And you know what? I don't have regrets. There's some things I wish I could have changed, but they were out of my control. But if there's one thing that I wished I'd understood years ago, because it caused so much heartache in friendships that I didn't understand, was that my perception wasn't on track. Like, I couldn't perceive things that others could. And it was heartbreaking, not just for me, but for friends as well. I had a really, really, really dear friend who was really supportive of me, but she said to me, why do you only ever talk to me? Not as in when we were talking about our life challenges, not the only time I was talking to her. Why do you only ever talk to me once you've solved the problem? And until I've learned everything that I've learned, I didn't understand all of that. I didn't understand that you could sit down and communicate with others and get input and different perceptions and have different sides come into it. And it just makes the world of difference when we don't have to be afraid of sitting with people and getting different perceptions. I mean, and it's so inspiring when we can do that. It really is. I sat with our pastor I think it was Thursday or Friday, one of those days, and talked about we went through what I was going to talk about on Sunday night. And as we sat there and I listened, I made sure that I kept my walls down and I was open to perceiving and understanding what he was saying. You know, I walked away so inspired from that conversation that I basically, changed everything around. And we have had such challenging times that we've had to shut down our moat, our drawbridge, everything, put the alligators in, and to feel safe. So now we've got to turn it around and work towards what we want in life. How are we going to begin to feel safe? And it's just one step at a time. Do I open the drawbridge across the moat? How much? How much do I open it? I think that's a great analogy. Yeah, that's right too, Laura. Apologies from the heart. Yeah, don't publicly disrespect and then privately apologise. That is just, that drives me nuts when people do that, to be honest. In the past. Because disrespect takes away, it doesn't build up. And we want to be around people who build us up and we build others up. Because as we build others up, we begin to feel safe to use our voice as well. And that's one of our key ingredients in group, is that we begin to talk and cheer each other along, and then we feel safe to use our voice. We feel safe to be able to say, oh, well, I need some cheering along today as well. And it gives us such strength to get our voice up and out of, the dungeon that it's been in, really, to be honest. It feels like a dungeon where we've had to be closed off, shut down, and not saying anything. So, I hope that you can take away from this morning some key ideas so that you can sit down, look towards where you want to be feeling, what you want to be able to say, and then just break it down into small bits and just take one step at a time. And that will also help us be able to see who are the safe people around us. So remember, we've done videos on safe people. because we don't want to be opening up our whole heart and soul to somebody who has no respect, who isn't a safe person for us. Okay? Alright ladies, thanks for joining in this morning. Love you all heaps and appreciate you greatly. It's always good. And Laurel, I love that analogy of the drawbridge and the moat and the alligators. That's just priceless. Okay girls, see you again tomorrow morning. Bye for now.